You know, every time you fill up your car, you're doing more than just buying gas. You're actually helping to pave the roads you drive on every single day. But how does that money get from the pulp to the pavement? It's a pretty wild journey, and today we're going to follow the money. Right. It's a question we've all probably had at the pump. Where is this gas tax money actually going? It can feel like you're just dropping coins into this giant, mysterious national piggy bank. Well, you know what? Today, we're cracking that piggy bank wide open. We're going to trace every step of your tax dollars, from the gas station, through the halls of Washington, and right down to a super specific decision about what kind of pavement to use on one single highway. So, let's start at the beginning. Where does all this cash get collected? Well, think of it as our roads National Rainy Day Fund. And that fund has a name, the Highway Trust Fund. It's been around since 1956, and its whole purpose really is to be a dedicated pot of money. The idea is to directly link the taxes we pay, like the gas tax, to spending on highways and mass transit. So, it's not just some random number in the federal budget. It's a special account set up to make sure that money collected for roads, well, is actually spent on roads. Simple as that. Okay, so what's actually filling up this giant fund? Well, it pretty much all comes down to one thing: fuel. I mean, look at these numbers. A massive 85% of the money comes straight from federal fuel taxes. You've got 60% from gasoline, another 25% from diesel. That little slice left over, that's from other stuff, like taxes on tires and heavy trucks. But wow, it is really all about the gas pump. And this is where we get to the real heart of the problem. That main source of cash, the federal gas tax, is basically frozen in time. It was set at 18.3 cents per gallon way back in 1993. I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. 1993. The price of, well, everything has gone up since then. A gallon of milk, a movie ticket, and definitely the cost of asphalt. But the main funding source for our entire national road system hasn't budged in over 3 decades. So you can probably see where this is going, right? We've got this decades-old funding model, but today's roads and cars are completely different. Cars are way more fuel efficient now, and we're seeing more and more electric vehicles that don't use any gas at all. So here's the paradox. We're all driving as much as ever, maybe even more, putting all that wear and tear on the roads. But as a country, we're putting less and less money into the pot that's supposed to fix it. It really makes you wonder, is this system built to last? Well, the short answer is a big, fat no. The numbers are just staggering. The Congressional Budget Office is projecting a shortfall of $40 billion annually by 2029. That's not just a small leak in the bucket, that's the bottom falling out. So how are we keeping the lights on? Well, Congress basically has to keep dipping into the country's main checking account, the general fund, to plug the holes. We're talking over $100 billion in emergency transfers over the last decade just to keep the system from going broke. So despite this huge funding crisis, the money is still flowing out. So where does it go next? Let's follow it to Washington, D.C. and see how these billions get divvied up. Okay, so the money gets sent out through these massive federal programs. And when I say massive, I mean it. The numbers are just mind-boggling. You've got the National Highway Performance Program. That gets over $30 billion just for maintaining the most important roads. Then there's the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program with almost $15 billion, which gives states a bit more freedom on how to spend it. And that's not even counting the billions set aside for bridges, for freight, and even for programs to reduce carbon emissions. And what's the grand vision behind all this spending? Well, according to the FHWA, it's to deliver a world-class system for everybody. So you see, it's about way more than just filling potholes. The goal is to improve safety, boost the economy, and make sure our transportation system works for every single community. It's a really amazing goal. But as we've seen, it's a goal that needs a constant, massive, and well-funded flow of cash. All right, so we've seen the big picture in D.C. Now, let's zoom in. The feds might hand out the money, but it's the states that are on the ground making the really tough calls, deciding exactly which roads to pave and what to pave them with. And believe it or not, it's way more scientific than you'd guess. They use this method called Life Cycle Cost Analysis, LCCA for short. And the whole point of it is to stop people from just picking the cheapest option up front. It forces engineers to think about the long game. They have to calculate the total cost of a project over its entire lifespan. We're talking construction, all the future maintenance, repairs, the whole shebang. And this is what it actually looks like in practice. This is a real LCCA spreadsheet from Minnesota's DOT. They're looking at a project and comparing 3 different ways to pave it over a 35-year period. You've got your basic mill and overlay, which is like a patch-up job. Then there's the full remove and replace, which is a total rebuild, and a concrete option. Each one has a different price tag today and a completely different set of costs for repairs down the road.
And this gets to the heart of the decision, right? The quick and cheap mill and overlay might save money now, but you'll be back out there fixing it again and again. A full rebuild costs a fortune up front, but maybe you won't have to touch it for decades. So LCCA helps engineers make a choice based on data and long-term value, not just what's cheapest this year. But get this. Sometimes the engineers actually choose an option that's not the cheapest, even over the long run. And this right here is the proof. It's a real internal memo from MDOT. It's literally a request for an exception. In this case, the engineers are making a case to spend more money on a project. So why on earth would they do that? Well, the memo lays it all out. They argue that the more expensive pavement is thicker, so it'll hold up better against those brutal Minnesota winters. It means less repair work down the road. And here's the kicker, and this is the part that matters to all of us who drive. It means fewer traffic jams, fewer lane closures, less disruption. So they're making a conscious choice to spend more of our tax money now to save all of us a whole lot of headaches later. Pretty smart, right? And that brings us to maintenance, which is honestly an endless job. It's like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. As soon as you finish, you have to start all over again. No matter how perfectly you build a road, the weather, the big rigs, the millions of cars, it's a constant battle just to keep things from falling apart. And it is a costly battle. Check this out. This diagram is from a report from way back in 1978. It's showing the danger of a rut forming on a gravel shoulder. And what's wild is that this exact same problem, this same fight against wear and tear, is happening on roads all across the country right now, today. It just goes to show you, some things never change. The battle against Mother Nature and heavy traffic is just relentless. And that same old report gives us a really cool look at what things used to cost. Back in '78, maintaining a mile of gravel shoulder for a year cost about $250. A new layer of asphalt for a mile of road? Around 30 grand. Now, you don't need me to tell you that $30,000 in 1978 is a heck of a lot more today. The cost of materials, of labor, it's all just exploded. The key takeaway here is that road maintenance isn't a one-and-done deal. It is a massive, ongoing bill that just keeps getting bigger. Which brings us right back to where we started. We have a funding system that's stuck in the 90s, but we're dealing with 21st century costs and cars. It's a system at a crossroads. So, what happens next? Yeah, what happens when the main way we pay for roads, the gas tax, is basically running out of gas? That's the multi-billion-dollar question Congress is wrestling with. Because as more people drive efficient cars and EVs, that $40 billion hole we talked about, it's just going to get deeper. We absolutely need a new plan, but every option is complicated. So, what are the big ideas on the table? Well, we could just keep doing what we're doing, pulling money from the general fund to patch things up, but that's not really a solution. It's a Band-Aid. We could, finally raise the gas tax, but good luck getting politicians to vote for that. Then there's a totally different idea. What if we tax people based on how many miles they actually drive? It's called a Vehicle Miles Traveled Fee, or VMT. Or maybe we just target EVs with higher registration fees to make sure those drivers are paying their fair share. There are a lot of paths forward. At the end of the day, it's pretty clear. The system we've relied on for 50 years just isn't working anymore. The cars we drive are evolving so much faster than the laws we use to pay for our roads. So the question for all of us is, what's the right path forward? There are no easy answers here, but one thing's for sure. As our cars change, the way we pay for our roads has to change too. The big question is, how?